Good evening and welcome back to another episode of What's So Funny. I am your host, Guy McPherson, and our guest this week, legend. Not a hero, but a legend. Maybe a hero to some, to many. Barry Crimmins. Barry Crimmins has been the premier political satirist for the last 40 years in the United States. And he was at the JFL Northwest Comedy Fest and very nicely agreed to do this podcast. Let me tell you how it came about. I wrote him, asked him. He said, yeah, sure. We went back and forth. Then as the day got closer, he said, yeah, Friday's good. He sent me his number. I called him. And he said, he started in on, everybody's doing a podcast. Everybody wants him to be a guest on a podcast. He does so many. And I said, hey, Barry, just say no. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. I had to ask. And he goes, hey, listen, I'm a prick. His words. And I thought, great, because I can relate. I relate well with pricks. No, that doesn't sound right, does it? But I went over there, and we started the conversation before we hit record. And again, it was about this proliferation of podcasts. And he has to do so many interviews. He has to do so many podcasts. Well, he doesn't have to. I first heard of Crimmins in 1988. I thought it was 86. He corrected me. He's written books. He's written articles. There's a documentary on him on Netflix directed by Bobcat Goldthwait that is fantastic. I highly recommend it. He's got comedy specials out directed by Louis C.K. Like I say, the man is a legend. And, he started out a little suspicious. He doesn't know me from Jack, but he warmed up. I think I got him in the end. You can listen. Oh, I got to say, sound quality, I don't know what's going on with that, but, he did hold the mic far from his mouth, so I had to boost the levels a bit on his side. And there was already noise coming from the hotel. He was at the Sutton Place, and outside they were, I don't know what they were doing, but it was noisy. So you're going to hear some of that. But you can hear the words, and that's the most important thing. So I hope you enjoy the conversation. We talk politics. We talk comedy. We go back in time. It's a good one. Here's my conversation with Barry Crimmins. But when I can tell you that when I started doing a podcast, for the first 7 to 10 years, I thought that I could get 95% of any comedian that I wanted because there weren't that many podcasts. In fact, there weren't any when I started. Because this is also on co-op radio, something that may be near and dear to your heart. Sure. And now I'm thinking I shouldn't even do this because it gets more difficult because everybody has a podcast. Everybody's asking their famous friends to be on podcast. You are.
No. If I get a podcast, then there won't be anyone. Then it's just round robin.
I know it's.
But I like doing my friends' podcasts. Some of them I really like doing. It's just you can't tell, and there's just times where they're like so persistent and they think they have you nailed down or whatever, and it's literally like, more contacts with one person over a podcast than people who will actually hear that podcast.
Probably. But you must do shows in front of 80 people.
I get paid for those.
Oh, there you go.
It's not my fucking hobby. I'm not making your thing to try to sell advertise, whatever it is people do with these things. It's not my I get paid to, I'm happy to do a show for 80 people. You can make pretty good, you can survive if 80 people show up every night. Mm-hmm. You can't eat podcasts, But anyway, it's not you. It's just fucking podcasts. It's just gotten to the point where it's,
breaking point.
And I've gotten to do a lot of the real serious podcasts, and they've really, doing Marin's podcast is, amazing what it does for you. But
yeah, hundreds of thousands of people.
Anyway, and Dana Gould and, Greg Fitzsimmons and a lot of the people, they're great. I mean, that's really helpful. But, and this is not yours, but I mean, there's just so many others that literally figure out. I mean, it's 20 contacts, and then, the interview goes on forever, and they're not journalists. They don't know how to ask a decent question, or maybe like, well, he probably been asked that, or how about go out and look at the 7 million interviews I've done, and maybe, you can develop that information without making me say it for the 5 millionth time. Like going to everybody's house in North America who has a tape recorder.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, I've been on the road for weeks now, whatever. I'm just like everywhere I go, like every night. 4 different people on me a podcast last night. If it's
and you said
Todd
no,
Glass,
I'm doing guys, no more.
I mean, if it's Todd Glass or somebody really in the business or whatever, that's fine. But I don't know if they could be great podcasts. But it's just like
it's hard to know.
You just don't know.
So, well, I really appreciate you
some
doing
of them
this.
You just feel like they just put stenciling you on the side of the fighter thing, like confirmed kill.
Oh, I see. Another notch.
Well, because
in my belt?
what I hear from them is who did their podcast.
Right.
Well, we got so and so. You don't want to do it. It's like, well, you got him. You need me for it. Anyway, enough of that.
Well, if I give you who did this one, it's only as a way to say that it's safe.
Yeah.
That if they could do it.
Yeah. No, I know.
I mean, I could give you.
No, I mean, there's times when people go, well, so and so did it. Well, I don't even like that guy.
Right.
It's like,
who do you like, though? Who do you like?
Everybody.
You do? Yeah, you've been at. Now, it's interesting to me how people know you. You said that these days, since the Bobcat Goldthwait documentary on you came out, everybody wants a piece of you. Yeah, there's interviews, there's radio, newspapers,
and I mean, it's
podcasts.
great, and I mean, most of it's tremendous, but there's just sometimes. But there's this, it's like everything else. It's like, hey, who isn't a writer these days? Anyone with a fucking laptop is a writer.
Everyone's a writer, a broadcaster.
Well, yeah, I know. Yeah. And I mean, that's double-edged sword with 3 sharp sides on one part of the sword. I used to make money as a freelance writer. It's like now my editor gets the freelance stuff, and there's no work left, and everyone tells you they're a writer. And it's like, well, if you don't get paid to do it, or that's some undiscovered genius, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's, everybody's a scab these days.
Everyone's a comic, too.
Oh, fuck. 35,000 people in New York.
Seriously?
Calling themselves comedians, yeah.
Where'd you get that number?
It was a pretty good estimate. A couple people, I think my friend Rebecca tried at the Creek and Cave in New York. A couple people are kind of like really just, put together the best estimate. They figure it's about 35,000. 35,000. And the thing is with comedy, and I just repeat this stuff all the time, but if you do it well, it looks easy.
Mm-hmm.
So, then people and they think, oh, that's cool. I like if somebody's a good musician, it still doesn't look easy to me because I can't play a musical instrument.
You can't go to an open mic.
Yeah, but these people
pick up a saxophone.
Yeah, right. But these people, it's a combination of that and sort of the growing up in those soccer leagues you're not allowed to score in. I mean, it's like it's a comedy. Oh, it's my turn to be a comedian now, and it's not that much of a problem for me. It's not costing me any stage time, but I mean. There's 200 really good young comics in New York who've got to get through 34,800 people to get on the stage. And that's, maybe there should be 2,000 in New York, but 35,000, it's just, and you sit and you talk with these people and they're not funny, I mean, if you're a comic and you're hanging around, you're probably, you think humorously, that's how you convey things, and it's like the only time these guys light up is when something about, fucking Batman changed his cowl or something, or a new comic book. So it's like, I'm a grown man. I don't give a shit about that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's gotten excessive. And it's just it's the exact opposite problem we had when I started 45 years ago. Because there was no ballast at all to comedy. There's nothing there. You had to make it up, and so we needed comics. But I got so lucky when I got to Boston with who was around and looking to do it too. Just these amazing.
This was 1972.
79 was when I got to Boston. But I've been around the country. The reason I think I knew how to run a club, or I knew how not to run a club, and that was how they were running clubs. They treated comics like shit. They didn't pay anybody anything, and they put great. They were under incredible stress every time you did a set. Like it better work. It better work because you might not get any more stage time for X amount of. And, you don't get paid, and you really, come and stand in line at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for 3 hours, and then we'll put you on at 1:30 in the morning in front of 4 drunks. And we'll treat you like shit.
Even in the 70s?
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, in the late 70s, because a lot of people wanted to do it by that. I mean, like... In the early 70s when I first got going, that experience wasn't even available. I was just going around. I mean, I was opening or going on between sets of like local rock cover bands, which is, you want to try that sometime. See how good it is,
Cover bands.
Yeah, play fucking Uriah Heep, and then your intro is like, oh yeah, there's a guy or something. Literally, We're going to put him on while we killed the keg, as Goldthwait famously once had to do. But.
Did you do cover comedy too? That would have been apt.
No, there's a lot of it. I never did it.
No,
I've been covered. I haven't got any of the residuals though.
So where? Oh, really? Yeah. So where was that in the early 70s before you got to Boston?
Oh, all over it was in northern New England and upstate New York and all over the place. California and Chicago and Denver a couple times. And, I mean, I kind of studied. See, just another fucking day in a hotel. These guys are. It's like a nice sunny day, and there's 2 guys standing on the roof looking at me. It's like, what the fuck?
Close the curtains.
Yeah, hey. Yeah, I know. I had to close. That's why they're closed. Yeah, that's great. That's okay.
Beautiful.
Now there's sand. They're sand.
They're doing the windows or something.
Yeah, there's something going on there.
Spray.
Hopefully they're cremating whoever came up with this idea.
It gives ambience.
Yeah, that's great. There's not enough fucking noise in this world. Get some backup beepers going, too.
That you'd get to the civilized Vancouver and it would just be chirping birds.
Yeah.
No, not. Listen to that.
This is like, hi. And everybody always wants to talk to you about your fucking travel. Hey, how was your flight? Are you serious? How was seriously? It sucked. It was a flight. It was the 5 millionth flight I've taken. I don't talk about it. I don't do airline material or whatever, but I mean, like, how was my flight? You have nothing to say to me.
Yeah.
You can go away now. How was my flight?
I'm here.
I went to a fucking airport. For the millionth time. There were some hassles. I got stuck behind some morons who never go to airports who walk 8 abreast like tourists. Look, an electric sign for Time magazine. Never seen nothing like that,
Well, there goes my next question.
How's the hotel? Yeah, right. It's a very nice hotel with someone running a generator outside my window.
Yeah. Thought you'd be up high enough that you'd be away from that.
I'm sitting here in my underwear reading the newspaper, and then suddenly there's 2 guys smoking a cigarette looking at me. It's like...
We're here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, from across.
Yeah, on the roof. There's a roof right there.
They're probably with TMZ.
That you got to worry about that. I've only had to deal with them once or twice ever, I was with Goldfight. He just knows how to. I can't even remember, but it's just really funny. He knows how to just say shit they'll never use.
He's had the paparazzi around him.
Yeah.
You get that big.
Well, I mean, we've been through something, Yeah. And your friends.
So back to the documentary. Most people know you from that now. And then last night, Charlie Demers, who opened for you, said he first, when he started out, he read your book.
Yeah.
And so you were here for him that way. And for me, it was 1986 on college radio in Victoria.
Yeah.
And we had the Strange Bedfellows album.
Right, 88.
88, sorry, late 80s,
That's okay.
It was you and Will Durst and Jimmy Tingle and Randy Credico.
Right.
Yeah, it was a great album, and so much of it holds up today, which is sad. It was all Reagan-era stuff then, wasn't it? Or was it?
Yeah, no, it was Reagan.
Yeah.
Reagan, it was the end of, the Reagan era.
Now, cue the sirens. We haven't had that yet. End of the Reagan era. Well, I saw in the Washington Post today, there's good news. The Reagan era is now over. I guess the bad news is Trumpism has taken over CPAC.
Yeah, it's just proving that we are limbo champions in the United States. We can always get lower. And that's what this administration is, the new low.
The new low. Because
instead of the New Deal or the...
So when you did that album in the late 80s, Reagan era, you were thinking at that point, we're at the new low. Probably. Were you?
Yeah. I mean, fucking Ronald Reagan got elected president.
I know.
Therefore, I must continue to lie about this sensitive matter in the land of our people with the coasts on both sides and the flag in between that I spilled fictional blood in Culver City. Tear down that wall. I want to visit the rest of the SS graves. Just say no to drugs unless they're from the Contras. And just say, yeah.
And then did it get lower with GW?
Yeah, pretty. I mean,
Does it keep going lower? Is that what I'm asking, or does it go up and down?
Well, it'll fluctuate slightly. But, I mean, 12 years of Reagan and Bush, and then the Clintons come in and they reform poor people, I mean, you can always find an angle that's pretty down there. It's pretty, That's why it's nice to be up here, just to be out. It feels different.
Yeah.
To not be there. Those people who are just like, and only thing that's political elections, I mean, there's plenty of people who understand that's not the case, but there's plenty of people who really think that they are these great citizens because they live in devotion to weirdos who want to be in charge, instead of being in charge of their own lives. Well, I need a better leader. I mean, if you were there last night, I talk about that a lot. It's like, I'm not a moron. I don't need a leader. I need an informed public. I need an informed public to tell a public servant, informed electorate, to tell a public servant, what the fuck we demand. Do this now. Straighten this out. Here's how. Not like, I'm waiting for, what are we going to wait for Donald Trump to give us a good idea? Or Hillary Clinton, for that matter,
Or anybody.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
The search for a leader should end in a mirror.
But you do need that figurehead.
You might. I just believe in Yoko. I just believe in Yoko and me at this point. I don't believe in presidents.
The Swiss system. They alternate. They have their ministers.
Yeah.
And then they just appoint one for a one-year term to be the president, just for show for when visiting presidents from other countries come.
Yeah, right. I mean, and ostensibly, in a way, it's like Credico said. It's like the president's like the greeter at Walmart handing out the smiley faces.
Yeah.
But if you believe in them too much, that's when they get a lot more. It can be a lot more dangerous. Mm-hmm. If they earned that belief, that would be interesting. I haven't seen that happen yet, but I've only been alive 63 years.
So who's the worst president in your lifetime?
Probably Donald Trump, of course.
And it's only been a month. But
ever burrowing.
We could say, this just in,
the
worst.
Yeah.
And the best?
Well, let's go through it. Eisenhower, he had one good day, his last day in office. He told the truth for 5 minutes, and he's the hero because of that. Military-industrial complex. Man, he should have brought it up at the other end. And by the way, thanks for the 40 coups you and the Dulles brothers came up with. 40 coups, one near you. And then Kennedy was, my politics developed far to the left of his. Cold Warrior and whatever. Johnson,
Vietnam.
God, Nixon.
Yeah.
Nixon, I said, was like herpes. You think he's gone and flare up again. I'm just going through who I'm supposed to choose as the best.
Yeah,
here.
Ford.
Oh, man. Yeah. Cleaner, more healthy America. Ford, yeah. Maybe Jimmy Carter was the best president.
He certainly is the best ex-president.
Well, he did something though that they've used to screw things up down there forever since then. He kind of discussed problems, and that's when the malaise thing and everything came in, and Carter, and then every advisor, every campaign strategist, forever, look at what happened. They use that debate. A leader tells you what you need to know. Should. A real leader would tell you stuff you need to know. Like the Hanford Reservation could blow up someday soon, But if you brought that out to, we could have a great federal jobs program cleaning up the environmental nightmare created by the military. But then you have to say that, you have to lie, Trump literally in his inaugural address said, we have a flag. Like it was, we happen to have a flag. Well, I don't know, there's any genius American ideas. We have a flag.
What did he mean by that?
We haven't got, it was just... He is so dumb and the dribble gets so low that he just knows you're supposed to mention flags. And, we happen to have a flag. It's like, well, okay, wow. Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
We have a flag. Which, we take to other countries and think we took control of someplace and put it up and they use it as a target. It's smart. But, we haven't even gotten through all the press. So, to try,
So then there was Reagan.
Clinton was like, he's the Democrat the corporations like. Okay, enough for you. And then
the two Bushes.
W. Yeah. I like that period of time when they couldn't figure out who the president was. There was like that kind of period.
With Gore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, they finally decided they better get someone in there because people were starting to like it. It's like, hey, we don't need one of those assholes, so...
The country will just like a big ship. It'll just keep going.
Yeah. Well, man, as I say in my act, the United States goes in two directions, nowhere in reverse, and we just jammed it in R. That's where, I don't have a favorite president.
So I think it was Carter. I think.
Carter.
Yeah,
right.
Carter. I know you're no fan of Hillary. I saw you last night, and boy, you lit into her, and it was great. I don't, not that I agree with everything you said, but because
you don't agree with everything I said, huh?
To me, it's a binary choice. It's like the woman replied back to you, it's better than Trump.
Yeah,
and
I know.
So, if those are your only
Do you want to be hitting the nose with a mallet or an anvil?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to get a fucking broken nose no matter what happens. Don't break my nose.
Yeah,
How about
but
that?
Infinitely better than Trump, wouldn't you say?
Infinitely,
especially now knowing what you've seen from Trump?
Look, I'm not going to get boxed into that shit. First off, I knew what the Electoral College was a long time before all these people just discovered it.
Yeah.
This is outrageous. Really? Well, I probably talked about it on Strange Bedfellows. I don't know. I'm sure I talked about it on Kill the Messenger. I know I'm screaming about it on stage forever. It's we don't have direct democracy in the United States, period.
So she should have campaigned
she was a terrible candidate.
Yeah.
They were tone deaf. No, the kids aren't interested in the Clintons. It's like, let's clear up those ancient grudges one more time from the mid-90s. If she's such a feminist, she should have and she wanted the White House so bad, she should have taken it in the fucking divorce settlement 20 years ago. Okay, that's how I feel about Hillary. Don't agree with everything you say. Didn't hear that part of my act, huh? I don't agree with anything you say. So.
I did hear that. That's why I said that.
Oh, okay, good. I was wondering.
But, I mean...
You did a pretty good job smuggling it in there on me. I thought I was getting another one. How's your flight? I don't agree with everything you said.
I like to rile up my guests. But no, that was great when you went off on her. And probably stronger than you go off on Trump.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just tired of hearing, that shit like... she was a terrible candidate. It's a goddamn personality contest. She doesn't have one. I've been in the room with her. She doesn't like people. It's clear.
Yeah.
When a dirty person from the general public gets near her, she looks like she just had a slug of curdled milk. I've seen it 10 times. I've been around her that much. It's just like, wow, this woman. And that's why they hit her for the first year she was running for president the last time, because their studies all showed that she was a terrible candidate in 2008, and she didn't improve in one of those areas. Mm-hmm. She didn't improve in one of those areas. People don't like her. They don't trust her. Just like, crazy people like Trump, but just like about Hillary just scares the inner dog, like a mean lady, and two bad candidates running against each other. Horrid, and and you could, once they got rid of Bernie, which is all Clinton's doing, once they got rid of Bernie, it was straight downhill. It was. You could see it coming, and by the way, those trade deals did get them. And I've been in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin a lot. States the D's should carry. The fucking trade deals killed them.
Mm-hmm. What about his age? He's 74 or something, 73?
Who?
Bernie?
Yeah.
But that's okay. Because I remember when Reagan came in, he was the oldest. This guy's so old, and he was only 68, and now Trump is 70 as the oldest ever elected president.
No, I understand Bernie was too old, but Bernie, I'm pretty sure, and I have this on reasonable authority since I, worked for him when he was running for mayor of Burlington, but I'm pretty sure Bernie ran because no one was raising a glove to stop Clinton. Because the Clintons they knew they didn't want to get her. They knew that she doesn't do well in contests, so they tried to get rid of the contest. But so literally, they with O'Malley and the guy who they hid the pudding on, Lincoln Chafee. I don't know, you didn't see that debate. Probably the first Democratic debate looked like the age was the problem. It looked like a AARP game show. It's just like, hit the button in front of you. I am hitting it. It wasn't good. But
she wanted a coronation.
Yeah, and this crap, the dogma. That's the thing about the two-party system. It's just the dog. You have to dogmatically god up whoever you're for. And it's like, she's running on her record. Yeah, I know. She's running on her record. And I know what her fucking record is. And guess what? I disagree with her all the time on a panoply of issues. And, what the fuck? Don't tell me. Don't expect my vote if you're telling me she's running on her. It's just like basically they held the fucking gun to our head with Trump. And, a lot of people in the United States like that. Yeah. So it's,
It's
But is she better than? Yeah, she's better than Trump,
or at least I guess it would be more status quo.
Yeah,
which in your
she's
mind is a bad thing.
Hedge fund millionaire, multimillionaire, hedge fund multimillionaire. The goddamn stock market, which is our big indication. That's how we pretend that we know that the economy's doing well, when in fact it's a measure of how easy it is to fuck over workers, and that's how we measure our economy in the United States. Oh, AT&T lays off 10,000, stock market zooms. Great news, except the 10,000 families that just lost their breadwinner, and that's straight from my old friend Howard Zinn, So
people's history. Yeah. So where
can't
did you
stay neutral on a moving train.
Where did you you met Hillary, or you were just in the same room with her?
I've done I've done a little journalist work, and I've also, I would be at, the conventions and various things over the year. But I covered a couple of things. The Clintons came to my hometown once. I wrote a piece about it in that book that Charlie read. She's one of the most insincere people you'll ever see, and people can read that. That's the problem. She doesn't play well. She doesn't draw large crowds. She doesn't play well to an audience. She's got those eyes. She tilts her head back and her eyes roll a bit, and she looks like she's fucking crazy. And people are allowed to notice that without somebody browbeating, without there's a lot of people my age are really, I understand that they would like to see a woman elected. So would I. But,
Not any woman.
That kind of thinking got us Margaret Thatcher. Reagan with the blue dress, and Reagan with the blue dress on.
You said she's a multimillionaire, hedge fund multimillionaire, and Trump is purportedly a billionaire, although I've always had my suspicions.
Right. We don't know. That might be why he's not showing the taxes.
Might be, yeah. What other reason could there be?
He hasn't been paying any taxes.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
He hasn't been kicking in to help pay for the flags.
Yeah. But, I guess maybe that's just a problem with the system. Isn't every candidate super rich? They have to be?
Well, they don't have to be. And there's a few who aren't, but yeah, generally you either got to be wealthy or got to have wealth behind you.
Yeah, you got to have wealth behind you. Yeah.
The Democrats, the corporations love.
Yeah.
And they go in and reform welfare. It's just
do you think
that was the problem? As my friend Kevin Rooney says, God, yeah, that was the problem with our country. Poor people were hoarding money again.
Yeah,
that's what happened to the economy.
Do you think that if there's any silver lining with Trump is that no, none at all? That maybe now things will change.
Yeah, you got to hit bottom, okay?
And he'll take full credit.
Well, no, hitting bottom. Yeah, I don't want anything to do with it. But hitting bottom, though. People talk about, we just got to hit bottom. There's already people on the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's who we land on. Okay? So I can sit here and cavalierly go, that's the country. Maybe we need to have things get a little worse. Do you know how much it already sucks for how many people, are already screwed? And so when we talk about this, that USA Today, if you can't write, make a list, but which has become, a real tenet of journalism these days. But, I didn't even read the story yet because I just went and threw the paper. I didn't go pick it up again yet. But it's like private prison industry sees hope in Trump administration. For-profit prisons. We've found that, prisoners really in most of the country don't even need pants. Every 4 years they get a pair of pants, and if they wear them out, that's it.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Right,
So, yeah, I just thought the way, though, that the progressives are galvanizing and coming together, that maybe that will be a positive and some change will come out of it.
They'll find another Democrat to worship,
Right. A celebrity Democrat.
Yeah.
One who doesn't roll her eyes back.
Yeah. No matter how many times you ask me, I'm not right. People try to get me to run for shit sometimes.
Over the years, too, right?
Oh, yeah. It's just like, get out of here. Get out of here. I'm one of the proudest things I can say about my career is I'm a political satirist for over 4 decades now, or 40 years as an asshole, as a non-asshole would say. 40 years or so I've been a political satirist, and never once have I mounted a phony bid for office because that joke has been done. Pat Paulson was tremendous.
Yeah.
By the way, one of the nicest guys ever.
Oh, yeah?
What a great loss. Yeah. Really kind to me, Pat Paulson. Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, and who else has run a...
I don't want to start saying names because it's bullshit.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's...
Well, they know
Oh, no,
who they are.
people do it all the time.
Doug Stanhope tried, and then he couldn't.
Well, yeah. Stanhope's different. He can do what he wants, but because it will be different. But but the others, there's one guy in the United States who literally runs for president every 4 years and then acts like it's this new element to his act. Like, wow, where did you get that idea? That,
Free publicity.
If voted for fucking Coolidge, it's sold.
But what about Al Franken, who actually got in it and is a senator?
I got nothing to say about him.
No?
I worked at the place where he did.
Err America.
Yeah. ERR America.
Oh, that's right. That's too bad that didn't work. I saw that documentary.
Well, it could have worked.
Yeah.
It could have worked. I don't think I was in it.
I don't think you were.
No, yeah, right.
Yeah. Why was that? Were you gone by then?
I wasn't Alpha. I don't know. The show I wrote was the one moneymaker at Err America. Plus, I did Crawford when no one else would go. I said, I'll go. And, we were there for a month, and it was really Err America's coverage. It was a proudest moment. It was Err America's coverage that really helped develop the crowds at Crawford. And you can ask Cindy Sheehan at that. We just lost her sister, Dee Dee Miller, who was a lovely woman, great person. But, they didn't know what the fuck to do. They didn't know their way around a protest. I did. So I went down there, and I helped, and, I get put on the air every day, and they go, it must be so hot down there for you, or whatever. I'm going, we're trying to build up fucking crowds here. And I tell people it's 110 degrees, and there's scorpions and Republicans and assholes with American flags riding around on their motorcycles with a bunch of other lemmings,
Yeah. So what show did you write on Err America?
I wrote the Randy Rhoads show.
Okay. She was on the documentary, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay. But you weren't an on-air guy, were you?
Well,
sometimes?
I did. I don't know if I mentioned this. I did the piece from Crawford, Texas for a month. I was on.
Yes, but I'm thinking that as on the field. But when you were just back in New York and
I was on
station.
The air at various times at the network, and there was talk of doing something, and then some genius in the front office said, look, our problem here is we have too many stars. He's becoming a star. We can't. So it was like, oh, well, I'm glad you noticed the cult of personalities cost us a lot of money. We could have spent. That network should have gone out and been in America. Instead they sat on Park Avenue telling everybody what to think. And, we should have been at the steel strike in Youngstown and,
more things like
that. We should have been out there. And I advocated that from the start, and didn't get listened to too often. When we did a few of those things, it was great. But they take some of these shows out, and it would be like the budget for the place would get busted from just taking the fucking circus to wherever, and then they would go to they would go to Madison or Burlington, which is like, let's win some people over here. We're Err America. We should have been in America. And instead, plus it was reactionary in the sense that all they ever did was respond to those right wing talk guys, and all they want once they define the boundaries of the debate, you're done, and that's all they. So every day, Rush Limbaugh said this, and I was like, fucking. Did you hear what Rush Limbaugh said today? No, I'm not an asshole. I heard what he said when I first heard of him. Someone hired me to write about him. I had to cover him for a month, and I said you got to pay me a lot more money to ever do that again once. And I never listened to the fucker again. It's just like, But that right-wing talk radio works because when do people listen to radio?
I don't, so I don't know.
Drive time radio, right? Morning and night. And where are they in drive time?
Sitting in their car.
Fucking traffic jam, pissed off, and there's a guy on there going blah 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 blah. People are and I'm with him, and that's the trick. I don't even think they know they're doing it, but that's why it works. Because when people hear it, is when they hate humanity the most. On their way to their horrible job, where they got to be suspicious of everybody because some middle manager is trying to fuck them over, and they're putting up with serial bullying and other shit that goes on in, their cubicle, and then. They're, looking over their shoulder all day, wondering who's going to screw them out of their job, and then they get back in the traffic jam, blah, 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 and they vote against their own self-interests. They go along with that shit. At least I think it's a pretty good theory.
It's not a bad theory. Yeah, it's just funny. You said, you don't listen to Rush Limbaugh. I've never heard him. No. Or Fox News.
Oh.
But the only way I know is from the progressive shows
right.
like
Always
The Daily Show.
About it. Yeah.
They're showing the clips. They're showing Rush Limbaugh.
Right.
And then I have friends. For a while, we didn't even get Fox News here, but they would rail against Fox News. I go, how do you even know about this?
Right.
You're not watching it.
Right.
We're seeing the clips.
I couldn't agree. And again, that's what Err America. That's what we did. We talked about that shit instead of define the boundaries of the debate ourselves.
Make them talk about you.
Yeah. Deal with it. And instead, you just color within those lines, and we were just fucking we imprisoned ourselves, and it's too bad. But that's what happened. Fox News. I've watched Fox News for 10 minutes in my life, really? And 8 of it was when what's his name Rove was melting down because he thought he had the fix in 2012, and he didn't. Our hackers outdid them that time. They watched them go in and try and do some electronic rigging. They let them think they were all set that day. The next day they came and the old door slams. It's like, and Rove is going, I'm telling you the numbers in Ohio must be wrong. And it was like, no, I know you tried to order them to be wrong, but it didn't. Your order didn't get delivered, shithead. And I happened to put it on. Maybe somebody must have called me or something. So I turned it on election night, and Rove he's like, in the Fox News, people got to know, Obama got reelected, and he is, flames coming out of his nostrils, and that's the whole time. But you can still look at that YouTube Rove meltdown election night. That's the one time I really watched it, and except for, you go to a fucking business and someone's got it on really, you want me to do business with you? Mm-hmm. The fascist broadcasting network. As if the other shit isn't bad enough.
Although lately, from the clips I see, because people posted on Facebook, Chris Wallace was really laying into what's his name.
Yeah. Well, but that's all part of the game.
Rance Priebus.
Well, yeah, but. In any case, they have their little internecine disputes, and now you've got the two-party system down. Now you're rooting for someone at Fox News. It's like, yeah, right.
That is sad. So you've been doing political satire for 40 years. When you started in comedy, were you doing that, or did it take a while?
I always did, because there weren't. If you got something going, you often were playing the same crowd all the time. Mm-hmm. So I just. It's topical, and plus they just came out of the turbulent early 70s, and plus it was funny. But I just sort of saw, I was kind of, I was raised by my father's a right wing guy, who never drove by a stranded motorist in his life. He didn't know he just got tricked.
Right.
But he had shore patrol in Hiroshima, and he was in the Battle of Leyte Gulf and whatever. And I think he just had to believe anybody got that flag out, we couldn't have done nothing wrong, because the horrors he saw, he was too nice a guy for. But anyway, I was raised with that crap, and it just took me until I got a little older to realize, Thomas Paine and Nixon don't really have a lot in common. And so when I'm getting into comedy, a lot of people are sort of dropping the progressive banner at that point, kind of forgetting about, and I was kind of picking up going, no, this shit's pretty good, peace, environmentalism, civil rights, hey, and then, Reagan comes and whatever, and voice in the wilderness time.
Were the comedians dropping the progressive banner to just...
They weren't. I'm not even talking about the comedians. I'm talking about everybody.
Oh, everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
To be non-political or to become not progressive?
Well, both. But, or just sort of forget. Mm-hmm. Forget where they came from. It's like, I remember where I came from, They were trying to kill us in Vietnam.
Yeah.
My sister and I figured out that was how they were going to finally get us after our childhoods. Vietnam was like, all right, that's where the slaughterhouse is. It fit in well with the rest of the scheme. The people who fought fascism and then came home and installed it, supporting Joseph McCarthy, greatest generation.
Who were you looking at in political satire as somebody that you admire?
My favorite politician in my lifetime is George McGovern. He was a really good man, and I knew him. And, I've been around a lot of politicians, and he's the kind of guy who was very rarely are politicians better in the back room than they are in the front. I mean, wow, he's even of higher character than I thought, like in the back room. I mean, I got, I know one guy who I think he might have been a senator from Massachusetts and went on to become Secretary of State or something. But anyway, be in my dressing room and, one of the wait staff would come up, bring us drinks or whatever. And I was making good money in those days, so I would always, tip. And, that guy would be saying, "Are you taking that?" Mm. Yeah, there's my liberal Democrat. So,
he's a bro.
Yeah, but George was is sainted in the back room as he was in the front. And think of what a different world it would have been if he beat Nixon in '72. I mean, Jesus.
But who were you looking at in comedy as in political satire? Was there somebody?
Twain.
Was it Twain? Was it Mort Saul? Was it Twain? Hey?
Yeah. Twain. Mort's wonderful, but I wasn't really seeing someone do what I do and what I ended up doing and trying to emulate it. It just happened. I didn't have like a career path or anything. I mean, face it, he started doing comedy in the early 70s. It was totally bluffing, like, oh, yeah, no, we know how to do this. Yeah. And I ended up eventually getting a club, and it really worked. And it's like, wow, that guy knows what he's talking about. And it's like, yeah, of course, I always knew what I was talking about. Okay. And that way that was about as much of a politician as I ever been.
Colin Quinn, I was talking to a couple weeks ago, and he said when he started, he didn't deserve to make a living doing comedy, but there weren't that many comedians, so he could.
I mean, I'm not agreeing with Colin on the didn't deserve part, but that's what I mean. There were no. I mean, that was the problem. I mean, it's one reason. Like Bill Hicks is a really good friend of mine. I never saw him because we were in the headliner cast system.
Right. So and.
I mean, a lot of us, if you started early enough, you were a headliner, right away because there weren't enough people. And that's actually what ruined comedy was suddenly there's 500 clubs. There weren't 500 headliners. Yeah. But there were 430 hacks who could go out and do an hour. Where are you from? What do you do? You're a homosexual. Why do women go to the bathroom and pay? But the guys did it this way.
So the boom and then the bust, but now Colin's saying, like, we're in a real boom time. And if you're saying there's 35,000 comics in New York, when you started, there probably weren't 35,000 comics in the U.S.
I don't think there were 100.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think there were 100.
So another bust coming? I mean, it's cyclical, I guess.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's become slightly more resistant because it becomes more of an entity, a show business entity. And that's really, I saw that as part of the job, is we have to make comedy like an option to people. What do you want to do today? You want to go to movies? You want to go hear music? You want to go see comedy? Well, comedy wasn't on the list when we started. Yeah. That it's on the list now puts it in a little more secure place than it was. And the shit the bust was just like, that was those 400 assholes who were ruining the business, losing their gig. And it was just like, well, I'm sorry your chain of, brothels is closed, but I never worked those joints. I mean, I did, and then I couldn't anymore because they developed the audience. And the problem is the audience, you're in as much trouble for exceeding an audience's expectations as you are for not meeting them. So you go in these places, and it's like, people literally get mad at me. All you do is talk about politics only. It's like, yeah, it's fucking political satirist right there. What do you think I do? It's like guy juggler showing up without any, balls. It just wouldn't make any sense. No bowling pins or whatever.
Well, that was before people knew your name. Yeah. Now people know.
Yeah. But
this is I
mean, back then, I was an HBO Young Comedian special, and some people know me.
Yeah,
people think you never exist until they heard it. And they go, "Wow, now it's great. You have some success now." And it's like, I woke up almost every day in my life and done exactly what the fuck I want to do. I mean, there's a lot of billionaires who can't do that. Yeah. So I got to do this. So I don't know. You got an idea what success is? I don't answer to assholes. That's how I'm, success.
Yeah. Well, clearly you started to exist in 1988 when I
Right. That's exactly right. That was the beginning.
But obviously I can deduce that there's a crowd there loving what you're saying.
Yeah.
And somebody back then, when you didn't just release your own CDs like everybody does now, somebody had to go, hey, we want these guys on an album. So that's a stamp of approval.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I go, he probably existed a few years before I heard of him.
Yeah.
He didn't just come along.
No, I've been existing for about 16 years at that point. So,
yeah.
It's been a lot of work, but the work's been what I think it should be. I mean, once in a while I've had a gig where I went and wrote something somewhere, but I still always had it. They wanted me, So it was like, well, I don't care. I'm gonna go. I'll go back on the road. I don't need this shit. No. I always had a little bit of. Before I ever went to work like that for anybody, I was more than prepared to. I walked in, walking out. Like.
You walked in, walking out.
Yeah, I will go. They knew it,
right.
And they knew it, and I wrote better jokes than they were getting in many cases. So, that was, with me being a fucking capitalist, actually, supply and demand. But,
you see?
We get forced into the worst things.
So in the 70s and 80s, were you touring? Did you tour Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know, Yuck Yucks? Where were you playing?
No, I with musicians sometimes.
Oh, okay.
And a few other things up here, but
not cover bands.
No, Billy Bragg.
Oh,
like that, yeah.
Wow, yeah. I was just listening to him in my car.
There you go. I think I played that room I played last night with him once
really?
along.
I wasn't sure that you had ever played here.
Well,
but, with the career that you've had, you must have. So, it was with musicians, hey?
I also been up here a lot with, I also did a lot in Canada was with Stephen, because I used to tour with, I used to open for Stephen Wright all the time.
Oh, okay.
And, Stephen and me, and road manager / main guy. Now the guy basically runs a major agency. In case he doesn't, I won't say his name, so his boss gets pissed. But I'll say his name, Tim Sarkis. But Tim Sarkis and me and Steven and a bus driver, and then I get off the bus and carp about environmentalism. Size 2,000 carbon footprint.
Sure, but it was that or a plane.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So, Stephen, how did his audiences take to you?
Oh, it was great. It was the Both Sides of the Brain tour. And Stephen and I have very similar comic sensibilities. They're just, people wouldn't get, but you see us together, there'll be some laughs, I promise. We have a good time. He and I just fucking laugh. Actually, we can only stand to hang around with each other for so long. Cause
So when he hit, I remember when he was on the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
And then he came back like
4 days later.
Was it 4 days?
It was on Friday, and then he was on Thursday. Yep.
Yeah. And so you were in Boston at that time.
Yep.
And what was everyone thinking then? First of all,
well, I was thinking tremendous.
Yeah, he gets to go for the first time.
Yeah, and then again, everybody was so stupid about this stuff. They, well, how, like within a week, people are like, "How come Steven's not getting me on the Tonight Show?" Well, because you don't have one good set or two good sets on the Tonight Show, and they hand you their calendar and ask you're supposed to. Yeah. What he did was put us on the map. That's what that's what you thank him for.
Yeah, was it the ding hos?
Yeah, the ding ho, and stitches and some other stuff. But anyway, he, right on top of the couldn't happen to a nicer guy list.
Yeah,
just right on, engraved on it.
That's great. Yeah. But then, as you say, people around him expect things, or maybe treat him differently, but he's the same guy.
Well, yeah, that's what happens to everybody. But I mean, for me, the saddest part of whatever notoriety I have or whatever is like that people have a tendency. They come up and they tell you that they're not worthy to talk to you. And I was about, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. One week I'm working. I remember I was in the East Coast and the West Coast, and two separate people said the following sentence to me. I'm just an emergency room nurse. It's like, oh, well, I'll still talk to you. Like I'm literally, but that's that cult of personality shit. It's so weird. We exalt
celebrity.
Yeah, and it's like, you're a fucking, you saved somebody's kid today, I mean, and I, shit on a dumb politician. It's like, I might have saved a few more.
I know when I see there's a comedian in L.A., Dr. Korean guy, what's his name? Dr. Ken somebody.
Yeah.
And I think,
is he an actor?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a really good guy, Ken.
Yeah, but I'm going, well, still be a doctor, because that's more important.
Yeah, right. He's in those Hangover movies, that guy?
Yes.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I met him at Sundance. He was really nice.
The other guy from Boston, originally from China.
Oh, yeah. Joe
Wong. Yeah. And he was doing cancer research or something.
Yeah.
He was a big researcher in science. And well, you should still be doing that.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
I don't know. It's important what comics do, too.
I've never stopped my cancer research.
Good for you.
I'm still trying to figure out how to get it.
So you're still friends with a lot of the people from the early Boston scene?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And lately, I've been hearing, it's funny when you're young, people are sort of jealous when someone hits or whatever. I never was. There's not a finite amount of success. There's just an infinite amount of failure, So.
Okay, let me run that in my head.
Yeah, right? So, I don't know why, but I knew better than to begrudge anybody their success. And also, I'm also sort of like show business literate enough to know that, Abbott and Costello are more popular than W.C. Fields. Well, who's a fucking better act, Sure. Fields or these two guys who basically yelled a math problem at each other for 30 years.
And McDonald's is a pretty popular restaurant, too.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What were we talking about?
We were talking about you don't begrudge
success. Yeah. And it's not. But now I'm getting this stuff and sort of nice. My buddy Rich Scheidner was saying to me the other day, he's like, "Get in it. You got the ball for our generation. You're the one with the comeback." And it's like hilarious. And it's like, yeah, I didn't think I was gone, but yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I still.
But just more in the public consciousness. Because there was a time
when
Rich Scheidner was on a lot of shows all the time.
Yeah. Well, they made a doc about him too.
That's true. But Bobcat didn't make it.
No. That movie should have been called "Thank God I Was Nice to That Kid." But and then part 2 was the Louis.
That's right. Yeah, that he directed.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does a director do for you doing stand-up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he decides what the cameras are supposed to do, and I decide what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
And he's smart and good enough to know how to follow me around, and I can be kind of unpredictable on stage, and he managed to keep up.
And he's seen you enough to know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
He's smart. I mean, comedy's all about surprise, so it's good to have someone directed who's not as easily, who kind of has an idea where the surprises might come a little bit.
Yeah, and he was a Boston guy. And when he started out, struggled a bit.
Who didn't?
I know, but sometimes you can see somebody and go, you know what, I think with some...
I thought he was a funny kid.
Oh, so you did,
I thought he was a nice kid, and I also thought he was always a personality and always sort of like, made it clear he wasn't going to take much shit from anybody.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. In a nice enough way.
You just mentioned that you were hit by a truck.
Yeah.
Like, how long ago?
Maybe January 10th or something.
January, so about a month or so.
Yeah.
You were in the back seat. You were a passenger.
Yeah.
And was it like side or back?
The car spun out, went under a tractor trailer, and the metal bar that comes under the high. Some of the trailers are higher than. I've been studying trucks a bit lately. I've gotten interested in them. But there's that bar that comes. It's like a bracket on its side, and it's made out of metal and big.
Okay.
And it goes underneath the truck like that. Big.
I'm sure I will notice it now wherever I see a truck.
And if the truck's high enough, I figured out that's a Hyundai catcher. So this kid rents this teensy car, and he hits the Hyundai catcher, and then the car goes drifting back. And the next thing I know, the rear tire of the truck explodes through the window, in the right rear window. Actually, I wasn't sitting there; I would have been decapitated. So,
good Lord,
yeah.
And other people in the car, how were they?
Oh yeah, Metzger got banged up, and I don't want to talk about the driver. He was really irresponsible, and I've chosen to show him some mercy now, but. My circumstances, particularly being in the United States, were much more difficult because of his abject irresponsibility, and I could have caused him some problems. I haven't yet, but I was out with a guy 3 weeks later, and he didn't even ask me how I was feeling. 2 weeks later. I was really limping around at that point. And, you just saw, I'm still going through the ramifications of that. And, I got a part of my hand is numb. A million things happen.
Cracked rib.
That actually happened because I fell because my knees were screwed up from the accident.
Ah, so that's all part of it.
It just keeps going. But, I just, my knee gave out, and I tried to catch myself, and I propelled myself, and I slammed into a metal thing, and it was just, at that point, it's just like, you don't say it because, you're going to get hit with the last chunk of Skylab if you do, so I'm not going to say it, but it seems like more has accumulated than you would expect. But then you look at what other people go through, and it's like, well, okay, I'm still limping around. It's all right.
So you got to be a relativist in some sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know Kurt Metzger was involved. He's coming here in a couple weeks.
He's Victoria or something. I was supposed to be with
but
him.
also I think in Vancouver.
Maybe.
We play in one room. Yeah. He's a funny
I was
guy.
supposed. Oh yeah, he's and the Metzger Crimmins show is pretty fun because kind of people don't expect it, but we get along very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was aces. Both of us were, funny how we were both stand-up guys when the accident happened. And the other guy wept and confessed that he hadn't put any insurance on the rental car.
What?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
And that's not a good thing in the United States. No.
I wouldn't imagine it's a good thing anywhere.
No, but particularly.
But you had
there.
medical insurance.
If you've been in a car accident, it's going to only come from that source. That gives the then the insurer is going to want to go after. They're going to find someone to sue to pay for it instead of them. It's the fucking insurance rackets get involved. It doesn't matter if you. And what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if you have a medical insurance because they're going to go, we don't have to pay. This is a car accident. That's covered by this. That should be insured. Well, then sue them if they aren't insured. And that's the situation that fuck left me in. Canadian kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I hope he stays here.
It didn't. Did it happen here?
No, it happened in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm just getting. Fucking literally took a big hit for that kid, and he can't even inquire as to how I'm doing when he's seeing me limping up and down. I mean, I'm look okay until you catch me on a stairwell. Then I look like I should be playing, the cook on a chuck wagon. See if we can follow that.
Well,
old cookie.
Who's that old actor?
Walter Brennan.
Walter Brennan, that's it.
Darn tarnation, yeah.
Okay, well, Barry, I've kept you long enough.
Okay,
you haven't.
Enough.
Hey?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, but I've enjoyed talking with you, and maybe this could be your last podcast ever.
Well, that would be another. That might be how you get a lot of people to do your podcast.
Yeah,
it's always the last one everyone does. Okay, come in, pencil me in.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm glad you were persistent because you knew what you were asking, and you didn't ask all the same questions everybody does. We didn't even get into, demanding excommunication every day or, my work, the child abuse. But I would like, anytime I'm on something, to say that children's rights and safety are the world's most overdue human rights initiative, and I'm just mandated to say that. But I think it causes so much trouble in the world. I don't think you can hate anybody till you hate yourself, and people don't take the rap. They don't tell kids what happens to them is wrong, so the kid knows something's wrong. No one says it's wrong, so they start thinking something's wrong with me, and then they get self-loathing, and then they start loathing themselves, and then to corroborate the self-loathing, they behave in a fashion that's consistent with a reason to hate yourself, and at that point, Trump gets elected. So that's why
it's all stems from that.
I'm pretty sure it's not, because at that mandate election, you heard my act. I mean, it was a census of how many people hate themselves in our country.
Yeah.
Because he fucking hates you. I mean,
But it reminds me of what you're saying, of this chain of effects you get in this car accident, and then it hurts your leg, and then you fall down, you crack your rib. So what happens in childhood will, one thing after another, right
everything
up to
gets compounded, until you deal with it. That's why I say go through things, not around them, because around you're just going to end up at the same point on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
And you're through is onward and elsewhere, which is often the best place to be. And that's why I'd like to talk to you about my flight now.
Hey, well, I hope it's a good one.
Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
There you go. Mr. Crimmins. I think I won him over, right? We had a good talk, and we carried that on a bit after I hit the stop recording button. And I saw him at the JFL Northwest Festival a couple times. Very enjoyable shows. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for listening. Keep listening, won't you? Sometimes we have great legendary guests. Sometimes people you may never have heard of. But they're all scintillating conversations. Go subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a rating. You know the deal. All right, talk to you next week. Good night.